The Arcturians. Channeled through Suzanne Lee. May 24, 2015. Dear Arcturians, can you tell us what is happening?
Dearest ones, we answer you and all who read this transmission. Yes, something is happening to all of you. Everyone is receiving the higher frequencies of energy that are moving into and through your bodies in a strange transmutational manner. You might say that the protective cover of the lower dimensional energy field that was placed around your bodies at birth is beginning to fall away. No one knows about this protective cover, as it is not a natural component of your physical anatomy. However, your anatomy is transmuting from the physical, third-dimensional frequency that you have always known, to a slightly higher frequency, which you may call etheric. However, since you experience most of the world in relation to your perception of the world, you may not realize this shift because the world is shifting right along with you. Now, this is where our term all of you changes. Not all of you, meaning humanity as a whole, will have this same experience. Furthermore, all of you will not have this experience within the same now. Therefore, we speak initially to our volunteers who took a physical form to assist Gaia. You, our volunteers to wear human bodies comprised of the same elements as Gaia's planetary body, took these forms because you volunteered to live in entrainment with Gaia. When you live in entrainment with the planet, as you transmute the elements of your own human body into a higher frequency, you assist Gaia to transmute her planetary body into a higher frequency. Simultaneously, as Gaia transmutes her planet into a higher frequency, you remain in alignment/entrainment with Earth's higher frequency. Therefore, as you allow these higher energy fields to transmute your human body, you do so in partnership with Gaia. Simultaneously, as Gaia's body transmutes into a higher frequency, you stay in alignment with that shift. Just as it would initially be slow to make a long-standing stone move from the location it has occupied for a long time, it is slow to begin the momentum of your body's recalibration of core frequency. We say core frequency because this shift begins from within the core of your spine and slowly works its way out into the periphery of your body. Many of you have been feeling your Kundalini awakening within the core of your spine for quite a bit of your time. Now, that sensation is beginning to flow up and down your spine, and you are feeling it in your entire body. However, your third-dimensional brain is not calibrated to receive this information. If you expand your consciousness into alpha wave, fourth-dimensional consciousness, you will feel a tingling sensation in your body, along with a buzzing sound in your ears that seems to be louder every day. That sound appears to be buzzing because your third-dimensional brain cannot translate the sounds of this higher-dimensional reality. For example, you may hear an 8000 Hz message, but there will be no tone to it. Your 3D hearing will likely experience this frequency as a buzzing noise. However, many of the children of your now are born with the ability to calibrate their attention to higher frequencies so that they can consciously perceive them. Most physical layers of the older generations are only calibrated to hear the tone core frequency of sounds from 500 Hz to 4000 Hz. Above and below those frequencies your physical self can only hear a buzz in the higher frequencies and a sensation in your lower body for the lower frequencies. It is the same for your physical vision. Just as your earth vessel can only hear the core/midrange, it can only perceive the core visions. It is the now in which your inner higher self is assisting you to recalibrate your perceptions by recalibrating your consciousness. All perceptions are based on your state of consciousness. When your consciousness resonates to beta waves, you can only perceive the third-dimensional physical world. When your consciousness resonates to alpha waves, you can perceive the fourth-dimensional reality, but only if you disengage your third-dimensional perceptions. In all your incarnations since the fall of Atlantis, you have been taught to believe that only your 3D, physical perceptions were real. During the peak of Atlantis and before, the resonant frequency of Gaia was higher. Therefore, humans could easily perceive the fourth dimension while awake in their daily life. After Gaia's near destruction from the fall of Lemuria and then the fall of Atlantis, the frequency of Earth dropped into the third dimension. From then on, most humans could only perceive their fourth dimension while their physical body was sleeping or during meditation. The reason for this change in that perception is because the manner in which one attaches their form to any given reality is to align their consciousness with the frequency of that reality. For example, there is a fifth dimension version of Earth, but you can only perceive it when your consciousness is calibrated to the fifth dimension. However, because the collective consciousness of Earth is rising, more of you are starting to perceive this fifth-dimensional Earth while you are in deep mediation. Because you are wearing the third-dimension body, you can only perceive fifth-dimensional Earth while your consciousness is calibrated to the frequency of the fifth dimension. Furthermore, because you have the habit and belief that only the physical world is real, your 3D brain interprets your experiences on fifth-dimensional Earth as your imagination or a dream. One of the most challenging components of your ascension will be to ignore the signals of your physical brain and attend to the signals of your multidimensional mind. The difficulty is that you cannot see your multidimensional mind because the lower frequencies cannot perceive the higher frequencies. Of course, you also cannot see your physical brain because it is encased in your skull. However, since your physical brain is part of the consensus reality, everyone knows that they have a brain, and that they would instantly die without it. Thus, everyone believes that they have a physical brain even though they cannot see it. On the other hand, it is not a part of the third-dimensional consensus reality that everyone has a multidimensional mind. But, since the higher dimensions can perceive the same frequency or the lower frequencies, you can perceive your multidimensional mind via your fifth-dimensional perceptions. Your fifth-dimensional self could also look through your 3D skull to see your brain. In fact, your fifth-dimensional self can easily perceive your entire 3D self, but your physical self cannot perceive fifth-dimensional self. But, if you have a higher dimensional dream or meditation, your consciousness will expand into the fifth dimension, and you will be able to perceive your fifth-dimensional light body. Fortunately, your consciousness expands beyond your physical body when you sleep and when you are in deep meditation. The advantage of meditation is that you can document what occurred during or shortly after you return to your third-dimensional consciousness. Therefore, even though you will likely forget what occurred while in the higher states of your meditation, you will have proof that you experienced it. Of course, you can document your dreams, which is quite helpful. However, you have to wake up right after the dream or you will likely forget it while your 3D brain focuses on the physical world. Throughout your time there have been many psychics who could perceive the higher worlds. Unfortunately, for much of the time between the fall of Atlantis and your current now, the consensus reality did not believe that these people were legitimate. Humans who could consciously experience the higher dimensions were often labeled with derogatory names, and often punished or killed. The dark forces of humanity that ruled for many years after the fall of Atlantis, could only perceive the third dimension because their consciousness was so low. Consequently, if someone could perceive what the Dark Ones could not perceive, the authority of that person would be questioned. Worse yet, the Dark Ones often proclaimed that psychic energies were of the devil. Which is interesting because the devil is the very being that the Dark Ones could see and often worshipped. The dark human worshipped the beings of the lower dimensional astral plane because these beings resonated to a slightly higher dimension than they did. These lower astral beings could easily perceive the third-dimensional Dark Ones and sought to join forces with them. Once the dark human allowed these lower astral beings into their consciousness, they gained a dark power over others. In tandem with the lower astral beings, these dark humans could burn physical objects with their mind, make changes in the physical world, and even enter the minds of other humans who worshipped power over others. These undead astral beings could enter into the bodies and/or consciousness of humans who perceived them and allowed their attention to merge with the energy field of the lower astral plane. These dark astral beings could change shapes, which greatly impressed the dark humans, and tell them information about the physical world. The humans of the dark side worshipped these lower astral beings because they were impressed by their power over others. The dark humans wanted to have power over other people, so they allowed the lower astral beings to gain power over them. The Dark Ones did not realize that the lower astral beings were just energy packages that were first developed on the third dimension. They did not know that if no one fed that dark energy package, the package died. They only knew that when they worshipped these dark entities that they could gain a certain amount of control over their third-dimensional world. When these power over others humans died, they entered the collective of all the dark, cruel, lower astral beings that resonated to the lowest frequency of Gaia's aura. Over many eons of cruelty, war, torture and suffering, Gaia's lower astral field became dense with these the cruel ones. This lower astral plane was not filled with devils created by God, but with devils created by humanity. However, the dark rulers told the uneducated, vulnerable people that God had created these devils that would create great harm to them and their families if they did not obey. Since these dark rulers had become leaders in their community or even in their church, the people began to believe that power over others was a good way to be a leader. What is occurring within this now is that the pendulum has begun to swing away from the polarity of darkness and into the polarity of light. The difficult part of a polarized, third-dimensional reality is that it can remain in the darkness a long time. The wonderful part of a polarized, third-dimensional reality is that it will eventually return to the light. One of the main turning points began in August of 1987 with the harmonic conversion. The main reason why the harmonic conversion became a turning point was because so many humans came together to meditate for love, peace and light that they created a shift in the third-dimensional consensus reality. This collective force of positive, loving thought forms that were created by humans helped to turn the tide away from separation consciousness and into unity consciousness. This collective energy field also ignited hope in the hearts of humanity. It also marked the beginning of the demise of the Dark Ones. We know that the decades from late 1980s and to your now seemed like forever for those who have lived through the "who do you trust" propaganda. We say to you all, who you should trust is your own higher dimensional expression of self. Just as you have learned to meditate for unity and peace, please remember to meditate to unite with your own higher dimensional self. Your higher self will keep you anchored in the higher dimensions, as well as provide you with a safe frequency in which you can relax. Because greed, darkness, wars and lies have ruled your world for so long, it is easy for you to become impatient. Please remember that impatience is a form of fear that can lower your consciousness. Because you perceive the realities that resonate to frequency of your state of consciousness, be sure to keep your consciousness within the upper fourth and fifth dimensions. Then, if you become temporarily lost in the fears and darkness of the past, your own higher self will assist you to remain in constant contact with the unconditional love and multidimensional light of the higher dimensions. Most important, what you believe is what you perceive. If you believe your world is filled with fear, anger and sorrow, that is what your 3D brain will seek. Your 3D brain has an agreement with your thoughts in which your brain will believe what your thoughts tell it to believe. If you only have thoughts of how difficult life is, your 3D brains will seek out perceptions that prove those thoughts. In this case, your thoughts and perceptions will prove to you that the world is a dark and frightening place. On the other hand, if you believe that life is good and that every day your world is doing its best to create a better reality, your brain will tell your perceptions to seek out proof that the world is good and is getting better every day. We hope that you can now better understand how you are the creator of your reality. All that you can conceive exists, but you will only perceive it if you believe it. Furthermore, if you believe that something exists, your third-dimensional brain, or your multidimensional mind, will assist you to experience that which you could not perceive before you believed. For example, when your thoughts say life is good or life is bad, your 3D brain sets out on a search to find proof that your thoughts are correct. Of course, sometimes life is good, and sometimes life is bad. Both of these realities simultaneously exist within the millions and trillions of versions of reality. You live in a huge store in which you can purchase any reality. Each reality resonates to a certain state of consciousness. You move up and down the elevator of this store via the shifting of the states of your consciousness. If you wish to purchase a fifth-dimensional reality, you need to calibrate your consciousness to the fifth dimension. Do you remember when you were one with your higher dimensional self and chose to purchase the adventure of a third-dimensional reality? You believed that you could assist Gaia, so you entered this adventure. Then, It took more incarnations and/or more disappointments that you could count to fulfill your mission. Fortunately, now that you are connecting with your higher dimensional self again, you are no longer on the ground floor looking up. Instead, you are in the now of the One, which gives you constant guidance through the maze of life and on ascension beyond the illusions of the third dimension. Blessings, dear ones, we are with you now. The Arcturians and your galactic family.